This is a Kango drill. It's a Kango 426. It's a 110 volt, so it's got a yellow plug like that. 800 watts, 600 watts. Steel up to 13 mil, and I think it's meant to do up to 26 mil in masonry. It's got a hammer drilling function and a normal function. There's a switch for them down there, and it's got this adjustable handle. It's got an SDS chuck, depth gauge, trigger, and around the trigger the rubber has failed. It had a rubber seal around that, that's died. In service recently, it's been getting very hot. I've been using it to drill cores. Drilling cores is probably not what it was intended for. It's only a very compact little drill. Because it was getting hot, I had a look in here and I thought, you can see the fan blade in there, just about. You see some of the little fins maybe. I'll take that cover off. The fan blade didn't seem to be going around, so I thought maybe there's a problem there. So if we take off this cover, in here is the bearing, the fan, the end of the armature. It's got these kind of self-tapping plastic screws. I've always had good success with this drill. It has done 4-inch cores repeatedly into brick. It doesn't have a chisel only function, so it won't do chasing, that kind of work. But generally, as a masonry drill, it's really good, really powerful. Got a bit of clay there from having it left on something. Let's try and put that out. Just rock that upwards. And you can see in there, there's a seating for the bearing. There's a rubber seal and there's a little bearing there. And then there's this fan armature. Let's put that down like this. And if I recall, the brushes are in underneath these side covers, held on by another 2 plastic self-tapping screws. I haven't been in here recently. There's the brushes in there, and these are great fun to try and replace now once we get it apart. You can hear the bearing. It sounds quite dry. That's the rubber seat that goes in there. And this is the armature thing. So the bearing looks like it had a seal on it at one stage. Doesn't anymore. So it just brute force pulls that armature out. And it's got a worm gear, armature's in good nick, and the contact ring for the brushes at the back. So if I can see the carbon brush there at the end of my screwdriver, just push that back. These jump out if you take them off the ring, so I guess I might have to. But I can't get them off yet without unscrewing them here. And so the brushes are wired through 2 little tabs here and here. And these just clip out as little units, and that one's damaged on the corner, but it still works. On the other side. So what's happening was the fan was the armature was overheating, the windings were overheating. The drill wasn't shutting down, it was still working, but getting pretty hot. Not good for it. Oh, lost something there. So we can slide this armature through that plastic casing there. that back in for safekeeping. I don't know which way around it goes now that I look at it, which is not great. Could have thought about that before I took it off. It doesn't go that way. So let's get that out of the way. Now we're looking at this armature. There's the commutator ring. It's well polished, well used, it's well used drill, but it's okay. This little piece of plastic fell off here, and it's just the bearing cover. So what I did in the past was, the fan's not broken, but it's not working either. So what I tried to do was put a bit of something in there, a bit of cardboard or something, and then fill this with epoxy so you can see kind of shiny odd splodges of epoxy there that I've managed to miss. But what was happening was, yeah, you can see the bearings have, the races have just fallen apart and there's bearings doing their own thing. So ideally, it looks like a fairly standard bearing, typically these things are. If we could get the bearing off, then we could make up a little epoxy thing to hold the fan in place. There we are. So slipping all the balls to one side, gets the outer race off, and you can see the bearing race there. The bearings were okay, but a bit dry, and that race had died from overheating, I guess. There's the inner race there. I'll probably prise that up. Not the race, the spacer. There's the inner race, and so I might have to cut that with a Dremel or something, and tidy all this up. I've come outside to use the Dremel on the little bearing race there. So I got this little nut breaker, and it's just a thing that as you turn it, it crushes a nut and splits it off. So I'm going to try and use it for this race. So I just put it up like that into the groove I've just cut. We'll need another spanner. So like a fool, I had it all lined up, tightened it up with 2 spanners, which you can see below, and it went snap, and it didn't have the camera turned on. So camera's on now. You can see there's the race, and there's the shaft where I've battered it a bit. So we'll get a measurement and see what sort of a bearing that would look like. So the shaft is 9mm, and the outside diameter is 26. So I've got epoxy on it, 8mm thick. So the bearing arrived. It's a 629Z metal sealed bearing, replacing this bearing here, which bit the dust. So I've got to get this bearing onto this piece of shaft here. Now I damaged the shaft there whenever I was taking it out with that nut splitter, so doesn't fit on. So I'm going to have to give it a bit of emery paper. That's it, it's going on there now. So if I can, which I don't know, try and get it off again. You can't twist it off, that's the thing. So there we are, it pulled off. So I have a feeling it'll go on the whole way now. Now I've got to figure out how to get this fan to sit like this. I had a look at the little metal ring on the armature, and it was going to be loose. The fan here was going to be loose on it. So I thought, well, what would do would be a piece of rubber tubing or a piece of hose pipe, something like that. Just slip the hose pipe over the armature shaft and then slip the fan onto that. So I'll put a sheet of plastic here, and now I've got to get this in. So put this up, sheet of plastic, sheet of chipboard with plastic on it down. So back and forth, let's have a look again. Just presses on. So I've got the drill back. Let's fit this little, this is the thing that holds this holds the brushes. This has to engage with its gears down below, and that's how the fan works there. The fan catches the air, it's as simple as that. I suspect this needs to go down a little bit more almost. And then this top goes on. This holds the bearing. And it must go on this way. So it seems to be binding. Without the bearing, it's very hard to know if it's in the right position. And I can't check it until this is in place. So there's a good bit of clearance here at the side. And that would be the only thing that would stop it. So if I lift that out again. So this is my own extremely crude dial gauge mechanism. I've got the armature chucked into the drill press. I've got a block of wood, some other blocks of wood and a little piece of metal. I'm just going to rotate the chuck by hand and call it good enough. Better go that way, otherwise I'll loosen the chuck. Just by eye, I'm just lining up the tip of this with that, and then down on the bottom I'll do the same. And just test if it's running evenly. So I'm just testing if it's running evenly. I'm going to call that good enough because I don't know how much precision these things need, but I'm not too fussed about it. So we'll try not to disturb that now. This is some cheapo epoxy. Just mix it up. we bring the armature over, I've just got it sitting up in the handle of the drill. I'm going to try to scrape and pour this. So this drill could be 20 or 30 years old. Someone will think, oh, why did you just buy a new drill? Well, I did that as well. I bought a new drill. A little one with a hammer only action, drill and hammer drill. SDS chuck. It's the business. Someone else might say, oh, why are you fixing it? Why don't you buy a new drill? Someone else might say, well, why don't you fix it properly? What does that mean? You're making a repair to a 20-year-old drill that you didn't really pay for because you got it for so little money, maybe £10. It's done its time, served its purpose. If I was gonna get an armature for it, I wouldn't be able to find one. If I buy the armature with the fan, couldn't find one. So old it's not for sale. What's the point? Put a £1 bearing in. If this doesn't work, it's no loss, except for probably an hour or two of my time, which I enjoy. So I think it's worth doing. So I'm just making this as flat as possible, and then I'll let gravity take care of it while I go to work. It feels like I've been playing around with this thing for ages now. I've been out at it maybe 4 or 5 different times between waiting for bearings to come and that kind of stuff, and now the glue has gone off. But I'm going to get the bearing onto that little shaft, and it needs a bit of a clean up, so I'll do that and then I'll press the bearing on. There's a little bit of epoxy on the shaft, so I'm just cleaning it with an X-Acto knife or a scalpel. Put a tiny bit of grease onto this shaft just to help the bearing on. Tiny bit. There's the bearing. So we're getting there. Just needs a little bit of a bump. We'll get a socket. Give it a nudge with a socket. It's just big enough to chase the inside race. And that's it. It's gone down a bit more. Still spinning okay. Give it one last little punch. You almost dropped the camera there. Okay. I'm not going to go any further with that. I think it's probably good enough to reassemble it now. So there's my armature. So the brushes are the complicated piece on this one, if I recall from putting it together the first time. So I've come back inside from the garage, and here's the drill. It's the Kango 426. It's got an adjustable sidearm there. Not much to show you other than that it works. It's a good little drill, this. It's got bits of grit and stuff in it, so when I turned it on, there was kind of stuff flying out of here, and I thought, wow, what's that? Is there something stuck in the fan? But no, it's not. Let's see if you can see this. If you can see the fan blades turning in there, I don't know if we can. But it means the fan's working, turning freely, so all great. A £1, I don't know, 20p bearing, something like that. Very cheap. Only thing that's wrong with this drill now is that there's no rubber casing around the trigger, so while I wouldn't want to use it in the wet, I really wouldn't want to use it in the wet now, not that it makes much difference. Great little drill, Kango 426, and a simple but long repair. Thanks for watching this video. If you've liked it, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel for more videos like this.